Yeah, well, I'm doing the rear brakes on this Insignia. The pads have worn down to nothing and it's scored all the discs and everything. What I want to show you on this is these grub screws can be an absolute nightmare to get out. If you do the right process, you can make it easy for yourself, but it's not guaranteed. But I'll give them a good spray. Hopefully it'll help. I'll put a bit of spray in here. This is not for the grub screw. This is to try and help the disc come off. I don't really know if it makes a difference, but it might. Then we'll be undoing, I'll show you now. We'll be undoing the caliper bolts. Try and get a better view for you. There's your caliper. You got the big bolt there, and there's one down below in line with it. Then you've also got the slider bolts, which are there. But first, what we'll do is undo the caliper bolts, and then we'll have to undo the slider bolts to get the pads out. Well, that worked. I'll give it a few slams with a hammer. But yeah, before you loosen everything, just give it a good few slams, and it can help it come off when you get to the time of pulling it off. I was just hitting it now, and you can see it's come loose. So when it comes to it now to get it off, it'll just fall straight off, which is good news. You need to release the handbrake now. I've undone a lot of the bolts. So basically, put your ignition on. That's on. Press the brake pedal. Press the handbrake button down. You'll hear it go off then, which it's off now. I'll undo, yeah. I've already loosened these. They're not tight. That's a 13mm. What I'll do is hit this part here just to get it to fall back out. Excuse the axe, I haven't got my hammer. And that's it. With the caliper back, you get a better view of the bolts. You've got the one bolt here, that's the top caliper bolt there, and then you've got that one down there, which is the bottom caliper bolt. You don't want it hanging on any of the brake pipes, so I have to do it with two hands. But I'll rest it up here. Some cars you can rest it up here. Other cars you'll need to use a bungee cable to tie it up, just to stop it from hanging down on itself. You damage the pipes possibly. As you'll see now, because I took the grub screw out before and give this a good hit, it just falls off. So what I'm going to do is now, this area, especially around here, all the way around there, is give it a good wire brushing and give it a good clean up. Right, this is a new disc. When you get it, there's a film of oil on it, which you need to get off. You get a bit of brake cleaner. Just give it a good spray all around. And then just give it a wipe off, just to get any of the oil off. It's just to stop it rusting in transit, that's all. But yeah, give it all a wipe over, both sides, and on this side everywhere. Give it a good spray of brake clean and give it all a wipe off, just to get rid of that oil. Well, I've cleaned up the disc, so I'm about to put it back on now. That's that back on. A grub screw. Buy new ones off eBay, they're only a couple of quid. These are stainless steel, a bit of copper grease on the threads. Well, I'm tightening this up now. As soon as it starts to turn the disc, like that, put your foot on it somewhere. Just give it a bit more of a turn. And that's enough. Well, I've clamped the brake pipe down here. I've not done it tight at all. This is quite loose. Then, round the bleed nipple, give it all a good clean. Give it a wire brush clean. Then pop this off. As soon as you pop the rubber cover off, put the pipe straight on. You don't want any rubbish getting inside there. So, easiest way to get this off, small flathead screwdriver. There we go, it's off. Now you can see there's a bit of dirt on it. Just wipe anything off carefully. You don't want to push any dirt inside there. Then I'll get the pipe now and put the pipe on and leave the pipe on then. I've got the pipe on now. It's a nice tight fitting pipe. You drop this back to get access to there, and I'll show you now with the rewind tool how to push the piston back. This is the kit I've got. I've had it years and years and years. Brought it off eBay for about 20-25 quid. What you have is this, I'll say, right hand side, and you've got another one which I've broken, which is left hand side. So you find the corresponding tool to match, which that fits in there perfectly. The little grooves line up with the pieces in there. That goes onto the end of here. It's a magnet, so you just fit that on with a magnet. That then will sit in there like that, and you add this bit on. It's fiddly with one hand. Soon I'm getting a tripod like that, and this will drop back in here. I've fitted the tool now. As you can see, the little pins fit into the piston on the caliper, and this bracket goes against the other part of the caliper. You just twist this until it's tight, then you turn the handle. I need to do it with two hands. I can't really show you on the camera, to be honest, but basically you keep this tight so the pressure's pushing the piston in, then you turn this handle with the bleed nipple loosened off, and it should make it a lot easier. The liquid will come out, so get yourself a little tub. Really you want longer pipe to reach the tub, but this is all I've got, so I'm having to make do. So yeah, I'll get this piston pushed back in now. A problem you might find, as soon as you start turning this handle to rewind the piston, this rubber seal will twist. But what you need to do is carefully get a little flathead screwdriver, lift up, get into the edge of the rubber seal without ripping it and without any crap going in there. Lift it up like this and just spray or put a tiny little bit of grease in there, just so the seal doesn't get stuck, because it'll twist and you'll rip it, and you don't want to rip the seal. So yeah, spray a bit of, I don't know, a bit of WD-40 or something like that, just under those seals, just a little bit, just to stop them from twisting. Now you can see it'll move and it's not stuck to the piston. Yeah, this piston's going back in nicely. You can see the seal's not twisting, and it's just folding itself back in. I'm going to see if I can try and turn it and give you an idea of how it works, but I don't know if I can. See the piston turning? And the liquid's coming out down that end. It's releasing the pressure. So yeah, you turn the handle, and then what happens is this will end up going loose. So you can just do that finger tight, you don't need to crank it up. And then you can see the piston turning there. I'm doing this one-handed, so it shows it's not that bad. Tighten that back up again, finger tight, and you just keep going until the piston's all the way back in, and that's it. The piston's bottomed out there, so it's all the way back in. So take the tool off. You might have to mess about with it a bit. Oh, don't do that. Don't knock your brake fluid tub over. What a div. Anyway, take the tool off, fit your new brake pads, push it back. Job's a good one. But obviously I'll show you through the video what to do. I've took the caliper bracket off now. The brake pads sit inside there. So this, you want to get it all cleaned up. I've just gone over that one quickly. You can see that one. It's really bad. Just get yourself a wire brush on it and just give it a good clean up with a wire brush. But watch the slider pins. The slider pins there. Don't catch that rubber. And you can also check these, make sure they're free. As you can see, those are free. If those are not free, you'll start having your brakes binding. So I can do that with one hand. So if they're tight, you can pull them out and give them a re-grease, but these are okay. You don't need to take these ones out. So yeah, let's give all this a good clean now and get these pads back in. The brake pads are refitted to the caliper bracket now. These are a bit tight to get in with these brackets, either end there. I'll just put a tiny little bit of copper grease in there to help them slide in. I'm going to regret doing this, but the way you want to do it is at an angle. You pull them out. I've pulled it out just to show you. Put them in. I won't get this back in one-handed, but you want it at an angle like that. I don't know if you can see there. Get both edges in at the front on an angle, and then you sort of you sort of put it in an angle like that and then twist it in, and that way you shouldn't have a problem getting them in. But it's definitely easier fitting these pads with the caliper bracket off, because they're a nightmare to fit. When it's on there, you just don't have much room. I'll get this pad back in again. It just took me ages, but I'll do it again. And then I'll get the caliper bracket back on. Right, the pads are in. Get your caliper bracket. What you want to do is keep the pads out. Don't push them all the way in. Now you're at that point, push them in onto the disc. But obviously don't do it before, because you won't get it back in. Then shove a tiny bit of copper grease on these bolts, caliper bolts. I'll do it with 2 hands, but you put the caliper bolts back in now, then you can put your caliper back on. The caliper's back on now, the caliper bracket, bolt at the top and that bolt at the bottom. What people normally do is they cover the back of the pad in copper grease. To be honest, yeah, it does help stop squeaks, but there's no need to cover the whole or the back of the pad. What I do is I put it on the piston, because it's the contact area. Then little paintbrush on these bits at the back which contact the pad. There's no need to cover the whole back of the pad in copper grease. You don't want this stuff going on your brake pads either, or on the disc. So now when this is all finished, that'll go back up there, and there's copper grease on the back of these pieces, and yeah, you just don't need to paint the whole thing with it. Some people do. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is refit this like this, and then tighten up the slider bolts. Copper grease these as well. Just chuck a bit of copper grease on the slider bolts, and then chuck the slider bolts back in. Put the slider bolts back in there. It's easy to line up. That's done. If you can't seem to get it, see that this threads in easy. See, it's just going in with your fingers. If at any point it gets tight, as soon as you start, stop. If it gets tight, you're cross-threading it. Right, this is all back on now. Everything's tightened up. Slider bolts, 2 slider bolts are tightened up. The 2 caliper bolts are also tightened up. So now the next process is to bleed the brakes. Get my daughter in the car now to press the brake pedal. The process is, I'll loosen this off. She'll press the pedal, put down to the floor. You'll see all the fluid come out. I'll tighten the bolt back up, and then I'll say release the pedal, or I'll say off. Then what I'll do is I'll loosen the bolt again and tell her press the pedal on. So I'll say on. Fluid will come out with air bubbles. Once this fluid comes out of here clean, with no bubbles in it, you know it's bled. Also, you have to make sure you keep the reservoir topped up at the front. I'll show you that now. Brake reservoir's there. The max line is there. So make sure you keep this to the max. It also says on the top .4. Do not mix like .4 and .3s. If it's a .4 system, use .4. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll top this up a little bit now, because it's only going to be pushed out the system anyway. So there's the minimum line. You don't want this dropping below the minimum, because you end up sucking air at this end, and if you do, you're going to have a massive job to bleed all the system. So make sure you keep this filled up to the max, or just over, while you're doing this. And after about 3 or 4 brake depresses, just come back and just check the reservoir's got enough fluid in it. Put it on, Lex. Off. On. You can see bubbles coming through that when I'm doing it, so we'll carry on doing this until there's no more bubbles, and then the brakes are bled. Well, that's the brakes bled now. So what I can do is put all this back, just keep this clean, like that, and that's it. I'll just give a quick wipe around this area, get the wheel back on, and jobs are good done. And this is who's behind the lens. Anyway, just want to say thank you for the subs you've been giving me, nearly at 500ish, 470 something like that. And yeah, I've had a lot of comments, I'm having lots of likes. So yeah, I'm happy with it all. So yeah, I'm going to bugger off, get this car collected, And then what will the next video be? I am going to be doing a map on the BMW at some point. I do have a little running issue with the BM, so I'll get that fixed hopefully, maybe document what that was, and yeah, we'll go from there. But this is the man behind the lens, and this is really embarrassing, but it has to be done. I want the channel to grow and I want to get more people interested. It's just part of what I've got to do. I've got to talk to the phone on my own in a garage. So, well, thank you for watching. If you can, subscribe please, give the video a like if you want to, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video, and thanks for watching.